Stewart Dickson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, I rise to support the motion as amended by the Ulster Unionist Party, although I suppose we should be glad that they have now clearly broken their links with the party that is actually introducing this legislation in Westminster. The issue is one which genuinely affects my constituents and constituents around this chamber, and many of them come to me expressing grave concern about the change in the tax credit system. It provides a considerable amount of financial support to many of the poorest people in our society, often subsidising, as many people do not realise, employers, and wages that are far too low to live on, helping to top up incomes to a livable level. Tax credit system, therefore, is a vital part of maintaining a decent standard of living for people. However, there are a number of issues with maintaining a large tax credit system. Firstly, tax credits are inefficient, awfully simply returning the tax that has already been deducted from previous pay slips with the assistance of a large system of bureaucracy. Secondly, tax credits seek to treat rather than cure a central issue, that is, poverty wages. Indeed, tax credits can and do subsidise some of the biggest names on the high street. These are often the names that aggressively avoid tax. In these establishments, a full-time worker or even one on 0 hours contracts working all the hours that they can, but they can still not afford a decent standard of living. Nonetheless, Mr Speaker, tax credits do play an important role for part-time workers. And tax credits are a vital lifeline to alleviate poverty for workers and children alike. It is for that reason that I utterly deplore the way in which the Conservative government is going about cutting tax credits in a cruel, uncaring and indeed, may I suggest, a deliberate manner. Again and again, the Tories wheel out the same explanation, how they basically are pulling the carpet from under the poorest working families in our country. Apparently, the shiny new national living wage, which of course we all know is just a rebrand of the minimum wage, is to make up for losses from tax credit cuts. This while they happily turn a blind eye to their tax-dodging multinational friends. However, although I welcome an increase in the minimum wage, though I do reject the cynical attempts of the Tories to trick us into thinking that this is some form of living wage. Furthermore, research from the Institute of Fiscal Studies, as others have said, is simply arithmetically impossible for the increase in the minimum wage to compensate for the loss in tax credits, when the gross increase in employment income from the higher minimum wage is about £4 billion, but welfare spending as a whole is due to fall by £12 billion. This means an average loss of £200 a year, but for some upwards of £1,000. To further insult the intelligence of the electorate, last week the Prime Minister, Mr Cameron, vowed an all-out assault on poverty. This despite the fact that his tax credit changes are due to abandon an estimated additional 200,000 children into poverty by 2020. Indeed, if there is anything that we have learned since the Tory party secured the majority in May, it is simply this, that compassionate conservatism is truly dead. The Tories are an undisputed, nasty party of British politics, completely out of touch with real life. How can a cabinet of millionaires who have never known or wanted financial troubles ever claim legitimacy in understanding the problems that face my constituents, the ordinary people of Northern Ireland? Nonetheless, we can make a difference in the lives of those who struggle to earn a decent income and wage in Northern Ireland. We do that by growing our economy, by fixing our healthcare system and implementing the welfare mitigation measures that have already been secured. If anyone thinks that the Tories are going to cave in on welfare, they are clearly misguided. Tax credits, however, is an issue in which they are weak. The basis on which they have been concocted is weak. The constituents of Tory MPs, I understand, are already voicing their misgivings on this clearly ideologically driven and charged policy. Maybe, if all of our Northern Ireland MPs turned up to vote, we could put further pressure on the government. We know Sinn Féin don't bother to put their pressure on the government by voting. But where were the missing SDLP and UUP MPs when the vote on the welfare of their constituents? Was it not that important to them? This House was capable of filling its benches by two parties to vote for money for special advisers. I don't see too many people here when it comes to dealing with the real people that we all represent, our constituents.